Well, welcome back,
Hello.
everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Jean, it's always nice to see you here again. We're carrying on the last lesson in chapter three. And number four is how little we know about another.
Hmm.
How little we know about another. And then you say this very interesting phrase that goes, hurting people hurt people. And by that, I assume you're saying the hurting people are the ones that have already been hurt, that are hurting. They then go on to hurt other people.
Exactly. So, for me, all the hurt that goes on earth, you've got to be, when people are awake and conscious, you
Hmm.
can't be behaving like that.
Yeah.
So, you're doing that out of unconsciousness. I know
Yes.
people say, no, rubbish, they're doing it on purpose. No, they're not doing it on purpose because if they were conscious, they wouldn't be able to do that. So, people grow up with such terrible wounds. I mean, I didn't count, and it was a small wound. And I realized that when we all, this high, abuse in any form, including being told you don't count, feels the same for a kid. But when you grow up and you suddenly realize, shucks, that person went through that, and I'm complaining about this little thing that I didn't count. You suddenly realize that there's so many hurting people around you that you haven't got a clue what happens to poor other people. We really and truly don't know. So for me, all the horrible things that happen on earth, those very people, and that's why I say it should be a school subject before the age of 8 to get kids, little kids below the age of 8 will tell you the truth. So if you
Yeah.
sit them in a classroom together and you talk about what's happened to your little boy, what's happened to your little girl, they'll tell you what's happened to them. Okay.
Yes.
After 8, they hide it, they don't tell you. And then 14, they take the knife and stab the school teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. So they need to have a grade. I think they should scrap grade 1 and have a class for healing those little souls that are. You grow up and you've never told a single soul what's happened to you. Meantime, when you speak to your neighbor, you suddenly realize that they've been abused too, and the one over there's been abused in one way or another. Abuse is rough,
Yeah.
all by us unconscious beings. So it goes back to being aware for me.
It's abuse is on so many levels.
Yep.
I mean, you have physical abuse, obviously,
Yes.
but we've got other emotional,
Yes.
psychological. I mean, some of it really is damaging.
Yes. Very damaging.
And if we approach each person knowing that they could have a history, what would the difference be?
Well, I think you'd look at your wounds sooner, and you'd realize that if you're conscious, that I mean, mothers have babies. They're never given a book with them. They really don't know what they're getting, and they do the best they can. And we all think they're doing a lousy job, and they didn't love me, and they loved you, blah blah blah. We go on and on and on about that.
Yeah.
When we realize that, listen, they were doing the best they can with what they had. Why? Because they've been wounded themselves, so they haven't got a clue how to live. So me, I'm ready to scrap education because everybody's got a degree hanging on their wall which they can't use or don't use. And all this stuff, we need to have proper life skills of looking within ourselves. That's what I
Mm,
think. I
mm.
really do.
Yeah, but we spoke last time about those patterns and beliefs that we get taught when we're younger.
Yes.
And that is the patterns you're talking about
Yes.
here, is that then we go on to pass those on to our
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
And then the cycle never
It never
ends.
ends. And we recognize that very thing in us, in other people. So we start
Yes.
picking on them. Meantime, it's our own wound that we're looking at.
Well, I always tell a fantastic story of whatever is going on inside of you, you see in someone else. So if
That's
you're at a
true.
dinner party and someone's picking their nose and you're
Yes.
noticing and you're getting upset, why is that person picking their nose? And then you go home and then your partner says, oh, but you do it all the time.
Yes,
That's
exactly. No,
exactly
that's
it.
exactly
Because
it.
the only person that does it, will
Yes.
see it at the dinner
Yes.
party.
And we judge others by what's within us.
Yes.
We do indeed do that.
So,
So for me, the only way to overcome it is by getting small children to come to terms with it. If you can get kids to realize that what other people say to you doesn't mean a thing,
yeah.
blow it away because you can't do anything about it. I can't change you. I can only change myself.
Hmm.
So if you can maybe get kids to teach kids that by the time they get to puberty, maybe life will be different because by the time they get to puberty, they already worries me.
Yes, yes, yes. And what did you mean by we really don't know another?
We haven't got a clue. Well, that was the story of the nun and the prostitute.
Yeah, in the story.
Yeah, so she kicked me out of the class because I put my hand up to ask what prostitute was. So I had to go and stand outside. She sent somebody else out to come outside and tell me. I went back in, and a week later, Catriona, which was a set book in those days, I can't remember what she did now, but whatever she did, and I put my hand up again. But as I put my hand up, I got up and walked out because I knew what was coming. And then years later, I met her at a funeral. One of my friend's brothers committed suicide. And I spoke to her and told her about all those things. And she said to me, do you know that I left Ireland like at age 18 to come to South Africa as a nun? You were 13, I was 20. She said, we were taught not to answer any of those questions for kids. So I had no choice. And she had a good cry, and I had a good cry, and it was all over and out. But I'm glad I told her.
And you got to, it was resolved.
Yeah, it was resolved. I, in my wildest dream, wouldn't have believed she was only 20.
Yes.
I mean, go back to my own 20, I was like a kid still.
Yes, yes, yes.
So shame. They had to deal with a whole bunch of kids away from home, being in the nunnery. Yep, what can I say?
Yeah, it's really tough, eh?
Yeah. And we haven't got a clue what others. I mean, my little wound is nothing. When I hear others around me, what's happened to them? Sure.
Yeah.
The world is cruel.
Last time we mentioned the way you find out what those patterns are. You look for help or you try to work through them, and then you have to face it and deal with it.
Yes.
Still agree on that?
Yes, I still agree on that. And we realize that the whole world has got in the same boat.
Yeah.
The problems are just a little different, that's all. But it's the same trouble.
Yeah. And when we notice that everyone has a story, everyone has some kind of issue they've been through, just approach them with like a little bit of care.
Kindness, yes. And when people understand that we're imperfectly perfect.
Yeah.
We are who we are, and that's okay to be who we are. We don't have to be somebody else. We don't have to pretend. We don't.
So what happens when the hurting people are now the healed people?
Very good question. I'm sure they see the whole world in different light completely and totally. And I'm sure through recognizing their own hurt, they can heal so many others around them by actually voicing it and talking about it. I really do believe that. Because everybody doesn't think anybody else has got anything wrong with them.
Yes.
I mean, we all got something wrong with us.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can definitely see a more pleasant world if people walking around working on those wounds.
Yes, if you realize you can that your story will actually help another, and it will.
Yeah.
You actually giving back to the earth like you don't know. You might not, you don't have to be praised or have anything from that, but you'll know that I'm telling you that you'll change other human beings' lives completely just by telling your own story.
Because you'll find out that if they can get through it, you can get through it.
Yes,
you find out that there is hope.
And you're not alone.
Yeah, and that many people have gone through this and can survive.
Yes, many, 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 many. Sure.
Yes.
I meet them every day.
Yeah. So the journey from the hurting and the wounded
to the healing,
to the healed,
yes,
and the whole,
and the teaching of others without even knowing it, just by sharing your story.
Yep. Beautiful. And you don't have to be any age to attend to the work and share your story.
Nope. I think we'd have much contented world, contentment within our souls if we actually spoke about it from young.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Because when you're a teenager, you're really wondering what the next act's going to say about you. So it's like too late then already. So me, it should be grade 1.
And then you start to change the pattern in your bloodline, in your family.
Yes.
And so
absolutely,
you break it. It doesn't go further into your children, and they then break the next level, and then that just becomes a different pattern.
Yes, because we just pass it down from generation to generation to generation. What is that all about? I mean, when do we stop that?
When do we stop?
When do we stop that?
Exactly.
It is time. It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. And let's get it done. Let's work on ourselves.
Just do it. Thanks, guys.
Yes, wake up, grow up.
Stop it.
Stop it. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.